All right, good day, everybody. Coming at you once again with another lesson here of knowledge with understanding. So, all praise to the Most High, for the blessing of being able to bring forth another lesson. And so, Lord willing, hopefully it be able to reach in into the ears of those that it is meant for, that with Lord willing, you might be edified and gain something of it that you might be able to utilize, throughout your time here in the earth, oh Lord, with the remaining time that we have left. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and try to get right on into this lesson and try to get through it, because this will be somewhat of a lengthy lesson. It's gonna be a good little while because I got more than a handful of scriptures here to go through, and this is in reference to strangers. Now, there's a number of ways that you can attack strangers to show who the strangers are in the scriptures in reference to Israelites and heathens or other nations. But this one in particular, I'm just going to deal with the strangers of Israel, and I'm going to show stranger. I'm going to deal with both strangers, but in particular, show you who the strangers of Israel are, and that Israel are strangers and can be strangers and will be strangers according to the scriptures, and show you where that applies when you contextually take the scriptures in the proper format. Then you can understand and comprehend, Lord willing, especially once I've gotten through this lesson with some of the verses and scriptures that I have to bring forth, and Lord willing, I make it plain and clear so that you are able to understand it. All right. So the first verse that we're going to use is we're going to start out in Exodus, and that's going to be because at that particular point in time, that's when the children of Israel were in captivity and coming out of the captivity from the Egyptian captivity. All right. So, and this is where the Lord began to mention to them about strangers, and this was in reference to the Passover. And then as we go throughout this lesson, we're going to go into different books, different verses of scriptures that's going to show the strangers in different formats, and we're going to make relevance of them. All right. So we're going to start out in Exodus chapter 12, verse 43. Now, this is after the children of Israel had come out of, they were coming out of Egypt. Now, when Moses made mention of the strangers right here in Exodus 12 and 43, he's setting the criteria for future reference in reference to strangers, because right at this point, the children of Israel didn't have strangers with them. They came out all together. Now, with the exception of those that might have been that might have had children from some of the Egyptians, if it's the men, those children are counted as Israelites. But if it be the women, those children would be counted as Egyptians. And if they brought those children out with them, when the scriptures make reference to the mixed multitude, that doesn't make up the mixed multitude. That's not the mixed multitude that the scriptures are talking about. The mixed multitude was, I did a lesson on that. You can probably go back if you can find it, and you can look at that. You can look at that lesson to get the understanding of what that mixed multitude is. But with that being said, those children are just exceptions that the Lord allowed to even take place, because at this point in time, the children of Israel, they hadn't had the laws. The Lord hadn't given them the laws, because you got to consider Moses. The wife that he had was a Midianite. Joseph had wives of the Egyptians. And like I said, some of the other children of Israel very well might have did have children of the Egyptians just as well. But like I said, they didn't have knowledge of the law. And it's not until after that they had the knowledge of the law that they had to understand that the Lord didn't want them mingling with other nations. So therefore, we're gonna go ahead and get into it, and let's try to make some sense of it. All right. So again, book of Exodus, and we're gonna start out in chapter 12, verse 43, and I'll read from 43. And it says, "And the Lord said unto Moses and Aaron, This is the ordinance of the Passover." When it says ordinance, that means to order, or the instructions as to how things are supposed to be done in reference to the Passover. All right, and it says, and I'll continue. It says, there shall no stranger eat thereof. So here, it's using the word stranger. So now, like I said just a minute ago, there was no strangers with them to the degree that the children of Israel was established. This is speaking in future reference, in the time that when the children of Israel get out from under the Egyptians and get to their own land and get set up and get established. That's what this is making reference to. And I want to show you who those strangers are. And as I go through, we're gonna get some understanding. And what basically those strangers are the Israelites, okay? And we're gonna get some understanding of that as we go through. And I'll read that verse. I'll start at verse 44. But every man's servant that is bought for money, when thou hast circumcised him, then shall he eat thereof. This is gonna, which I'll make sense of it in just a minute, but I'll speak on it right now. This is speaking about an Israelite servant coming into the nation of Israel after having moved out to a different location and coming back, and he's now a servant, and you could pay for his service. And once you've bought him or paid for him, as a servant, then he has to be circumcised and he can partake of the Passover. Okay, now verse 45 is a different thing. It says in verse 45, a foreigner and an hired servant shall not eat thereof. And it's making reference to somebody just traveling through, and someone that's just a hired servant, that's an Israelite. If they are not going to be sold, sell themselves to you, or if they're not going to sojourn with you in the land, then they're not allowed to eat and partake of the Passover. Okay, it's just that simple. So verse 46 says, in one house shall it be eaten. Thou shalt not carry forth aught of the flesh abroad out of the house, neither shall ye break a bone thereof. All the congregation of Israel shall keep it. That's a clue. It's letting you know it's making reference to Israel, the Israelites, basically. Verse 48, it says, and when a stranger shall sojourn with thee, and will keep the Passover to the Lord. Now, just let's jump back up real quick to verse 45, where it says, a foreigner and an hired servant shall not, I think that's what I want, shall not eat thereof. Hold on, give me 1 second. Okay, yeah, that's what I want. A foreigner and an hired servant shall not eat thereof. This servant right here, or this stranger, for a foreigner, just as well, and a hired servant, they don't intend on sojourning with you or staying in the land. So that's why they're not able to partake of the Passover. But when you jump back down to verse 48, and it says, and when a stranger shall sojourn with thee, and will keep the Passover to the Lord, let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near and keep it. And he shall be as one that is born in the land, for no uncircumcised person shall eat thereof. Now, see, this is going to be an Israelite stranger that's sojourning, and he comes to the land of Israel, and he decides to sojourn among you, or live within the land and be a partaker of the feast, Passover, and things of that nature. And the scriptures say that he shall be as one that is born in the land. Now, when the scriptures say that he shall be as one born in the land, remember, he's a sojourner. And I told you just a minute ago, this is speaking in future reference. So Moses is already setting the criteria for a stranger of Israel. Once Israel is set up and established in the land, and Israel, scatter out, move out of the land of Israel and go into different countries, move into different countries, they become strangers. When they come back, they're now deemed to be strangers. And or not only that, but that particular Israelite may not come back, but they may have children. that know that they're Israelites, and they may come back to the land of Israel. They're now strangers. So with that being said, and they want to dwell in the land, then they have to be circumcised, and they now become as one that is born in the land. The reason being that they're as one that is born in the land is because they're an Israelite. Because the same laws and rules that apply to you that's born in the land, it applies to them just as well. That's why the scriptures say that they shall be as one born in the land, because that's your brethren. And they are Israelites just the same as you. So it doesn't matter that they've moved out and went to a different location and now they've come back. The same thing still applies. And they have to do everything according to the law that you do. And we're going to expound on that a little bit more as we go, through the through this lesson. So verse 49, it says, and this is what I wanted to get to, but I didn't even realize it was right here. Verse 49, one law shall be to him that is homeborn, and unto the stranger that sojourneth among you. You see, this is not a stranger that is a heathen. This is a stranger that's an Israelite. That's why it says he shall be as one born in the land. That's why it's making mention of one that is homeborn, and then to the stranger that sojourneth among you. One law shall be for the both of you. The homeborn person that's in the land of Israel, as well as the stranger that sojourns among you, that comes back from dwelling wherever it was that he was dwelling at in the earth, and he come back to the land of Israel to dwell and live amongst you. He's going to be counted as one just like you in the land. That's the way the Most High see it, all right? So verse 50, it says, thus all the children of Israel, thus did all the children of Israel, as the Lord commanded Moses and Aaron, so did they. And it came to pass the selfsame day that the Lord did bring the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt by their armies, all right? So now with that being said, hopefully that made sense to you in reference to the homeborn, and there being one law for him that is homeborn, and unto the stranger that sojourneth among you. There's one law for the both of you. And I'm gonna, as time goes throughout this lesson, I'm gonna show you where there's a distinction and a difference between an Israelite stranger that's in the land as well versus a heathen stranger that's in the land. And we're going to deal with that here really right now. As a matter of fact, let's go over to the book of Leviticus, chapter 25. And now, a lot of these verses, a lot of these scriptures, as I always say, a lot of us know them already. So if you know these verses and you know these scriptures, you know them. And that's just all there is to it. If you can learn anything, that's fine just as well. But these lessons of this sort have to be spoken on and taught, because there's always, whether you're aged or whether you are young or not, these lessons have to be spoken of repeatedly and consistently and continuously, because people of age, at some point in time, they begin to get, their eyes begin to open, they begin to wake up, they begin to see and understand, hear and perceive, as well as a younger person, that may run across an Israelite or a lesson or video and hear the lessons, hear the teachings, and then they may begin to understand. It's all according to the Lord. And when the Lord will allow your eyes to be open, and when he allows your ears to be open, and in order for you to hear and perceive and see and understand what the scriptures are saying, and the Spirit of the Lord is upon you, and you awake out of that sleep that the Lord said he will put upon us in Isaiah 29, I think it is 29 and 8, 29 and somewhere around there, 29 and 8, I believe, 29, 28, somewhere around there, 20, I can't remember the verse, but nevertheless, so that's why, these lessons have to be taught consistently and continuously, all right? So you may hear some of these same lessons taught by other brothers, which you will, and you should, because, there are sowers. We have to sow. People have to sow seeds, and people have to water, and everybody don't get it at the same time. Everybody don't get it, early on, or the first ear that they give to it. So, the Lord, that's just the way the Lord does things, all right? So let's show the distinction and the difference between these strangers. Let's look at Leviticus chapter 25, and we're going to start at verse 35, all right? So this is Leviticus chapter 25 and 35. All right, and it reads, verse 35 says, now this is making reference to an Israelite man. All right. And this is going to be, which I can start up high, farther, but I don't want to, because I got a lot to go through. So I'm just going to start at 35. And I plan on reading down to maybe at least verse 55. I might jump and skip a couple of verses here and there, but for the most part, I'm going to start at verse 35. Verse 35 says, and if thy brother be waxing poor and fallen in decay with thee, then thou shalt relieve him, yea, though he be a stranger or a sojourner, that he may live with thee. Now this is talking about an Israelite, your brother, that the scripture says, though he be a stranger or a sojourner, that he may live with thee. Okay, verse 36, it says, take thou no usury of him or increase, but fear God, that thy brother may live with thee. Now if this was another stranger, which of another nation or a heathen, I'm going to show you the difference in how that stranger may be taken usury of, but you're not. He's letting you know right here. He's showing you the difference. If this is your brother, and this doesn't mean as if you would treat a stranger this way. This means if your brother is worth, just like it says, though he be a stranger or a sojourner, that he may live with you. This is how you treat a brother that, that is a stranger. Not treat, how some books read, and they would, I'll try to paraphrase in the scripture, like I'll say it like some of the newer translated versions, they might read like this. And if thy brother be waxing poor and falling in decay with thee, then thou shalt relieve him, yea, as if he is a stranger. And that's probably the best I can do as paraphrasing. So it's kind of like it's giving you the mindset, the newer translations, they're giving you the mindset to think that you're supposed to treat your brother that's a stranger as if you would treat any other stranger. But that's not what the scripture is saying. The scripture is saying that your brother right here is a stranger. And as I read down, I'm going to show you how you're able to deal with the other stranger that is a foreigner. That's not a foreigner. It is a foreigner, but that's of another nation or a heathen, all right? So I'll read it again, verse 35. It says, and if thy brother be waxing poor and falling in decay, that means falling on hard time, lost all his money or whatever land. If he be falling in decay with thee, then thou shalt relieve him. Yea, though he be a stranger or a sojourner, that he may live with thee, take thou no usury of him or increase, but fear thy God, that thy brother may live with thee. Thou shalt not give him thy money upon usury, nor lend him thy victuals, your food, for increase. I am the Lord your God, which brought you forth out of the land of Egypt, to give you the land of Canaan, and to be your God. Okay, let me see where I want to stop at right there. All right, I'm gonna read verse 38. I am the Lord your God, which I think I just read that. All right, verse 39. And it says, and if thy brother that dwelleth by thee be waxing poor, now the same brother or another brother, and be sold unto thee, you see, you can buy a brother. You can buy, this is the same stranger. You can buy an Israelite brother. And I'm going to deal with this later on down the line. Just remember, when you hear scriptures about when an Israelite owned another Israelite or possess another Israelite, or him being a stranger, thy stranger, you can purchase a brother that's an Israelite. Now, this doesn't mean that you can purchase him as a slave. I'll make it plain here in just a minute. I read verse 39 again. And if thy brother that dwelleth by thee be waxing poor, and be sold unto thee, thou shalt not compel him to serve as a bondservant. Now, a bondservant and a servant are two different things. Just like a maid servant and a bond servant and a bond woman. A bond servant is a slave, an actual slave that you purchase, as well as a bond woman. Those are actual slaves, which I'm going to show you in just a minute, and I'll keep reading. So you don't treat that brother the scripture just told you, you don't treat this stranger that's fallen in decay and you purchase him. It says, bottom part of verse 39, it says, thou shalt not compel him to serve as a bond servant. Verse 40, but as an hired servant and as a sojourner. Same thing. He's still a sojourner. He shall be with thee and shall serve thee unto the year of Jubilee. So that means when the year of Jubilee is up, or when it gets there, you have to release that servant, that brother, or that stranger, or that sojourner that is a brother, that is an Israelite. You release him. You can't keep him as a servant or slave or bond servant forever. Now, verse 41, it says, and then shall he depart from thee, both he and his children with him, and shall return unto his own family, and unto the possession of his fathers shall he return. So whatever possessions that is for everybody's possessions go back to the rightful owner after the year of Jubilee anyways, once you read the scriptures and you understand that. So he'll have possession. That's inheritance that's passed down to him at that time. So he'll be able to go back to that. That's why the scripture says that he'll be able to go return unto his own family and unto the possession of his fathers shall he return. Verse 42, for they are my servants. The Lord is saying that the children of Israel, they are my servants. So that's why, we're not supposed to treat them as bond servants. Okay, and I'll continue reading. It says, which I brought forth out of the land of Egypt. They shall not be sold as bondmen. Remember, there's a difference between bondmen and bondwomen and maid servants and servants. Okay, so the maid servants are the women of Israel that were maid servants to other Israelites. And the servants are the men of Israel that were servants unto other Israelites. And that should alone give you sense to think when you go over into the New Testament and the scripture says that thou shalt that you shall about servants obeying your masters. This is speaking about Israelite servants. This wasn't talking about actual like us as slaves here in America, the way they taught it to us, the way our ancestors were hardcore slaves and how they were in hardcore bondage and slavery. That had nothing to do with what the scripture's talking about in the New Testament in reference to servants obey your masters. That's speaking about Israelite servants that were servants to other Israelites, that they had to stay obedient to those which were their masters because they purchased them. Okay, so that caused me, I don't want to get sidetracked, but I think I'm gonna start at verse 42 again. For they are my servants, which I brought forth out of the land of Egypt. They shall not be sold as bondmen. Verse 43, thou shalt not rule over him with rigor. Rigor is being strict or being just being strict. There's a lot of different terminologies that will identify what rigor is, but being strict or being is another word that I was trying to think of, but mainly being strict is the only thing that can come to mind right now. You're not supposed to treat him the way you would treat a bond servant. Okay, so I'll finish up at verse 43. It says, but shalt fear thy God. Verse 44. Now this is where you're going to get the distinction of the strangers that are of the other nations or of the heathens versus the stranger that is an Israelite, that's your brother. Like up in verse 35, where it made sense of, and it shows you, though thy brother, though he be a stranger, you weren't supposed to treat him a certain way. You're not supposed to take usury of him. Now in verse 44, it's going to go into the other stranger, and it's going to show you how you as an Israelite, are able to deal with this stranger, okay, versus the way you're able to you're allowed to deal with the other stranger that's an Israelite. All right, so verse 44. This is Leviticus chapter 25, verse 44. Now it says, verse 44 reads, both thy bondmen, remember, there's bondmen, that's different from servant or maidservant, and thy bondmaids, see, which thou shalt have, shall be of the heathen that are round about you. So any of those servants that live about you, you can take them to be bondmaids and bond servants, okay? Of them shall ye buy bondmen and bondmaids. Verse 45, moreover, of the children of the strangers that do sojourn among you, of them shall ye buy, and of their families. You see how it said, let me back up. In verse 45, basically he's saying also, well, like it said, moreover, of the children of the strangers. Now, this is the other stranger that the scripture make reference to. That's not an Israelite. And you know, because the context of the verse and the scriptures, you're able to make the distinction and discern that this is not an Israelite stranger. Okay? Verse 45 again, it says, moreover, of the children of the strangers that do sojourn, these are sojourners also, among you, of them shall ye buy, and of their families, you can buy of those strangers as bondmen and bondwomen, and of their families that are with you, which they begat in your land, and they shall be your possession. Okay, so now, when it says that they were begat in your land, no other nations are supposed to be in the land of Israel with Israel, as in a cohesive manner of equality, as though we are, other nations are free to roam about. They're free to roam about, but there's no equality when it comes down to other nations being in the land of Israel. They're either in captivity or they're bond, like the scripture says right here. They're bond servants, one or the other. Well, both really are the same. And I'm gonna touch on that, and I'll bring it up a little bit later if it could come to mind, if I remember, as I carry on throughout the lesson here, as I keep going. All right, so verse 45, I'll read it again quickly, and then I'll move on down to 46. Moreover, of the children of the strangers that do sojourn among you, of them shall ye buy, and of their families that are with you, which they begat in your land, and they shall be your possession. Verse 46, and ye shall take them as an inheritance for your children, after you, to inherit them for a possession. They shall be your bondmen forever. Now, remember early on, I'm gonna stop right here at 46 real quick, and then I'm gonna jump back up to, if I give me 1 second, verse 41. But I'll start at 40. I just want to read 40 and 41. All right. Verse 40 says, but this is the brother or the stranger that you bought for money. It says, but as an hired servant, and you remember, you're not supposed to treat him as a bond servant, but you treat him as an hired servant. It says, but as an hired servant and as a sojourner, he shall be with thee and shall serve thee unto the year of Jubilee. See, so, and then verse 41, it says, and then shall he depart from thee, both he and his children with him, and shall return unto his own family and unto his possession, and unto the possession of his fathers shall he return. So that servant or that Israelite stranger or sojourner that serves you, you have to let him go, and he gets to go back home to his family and the possession of his father. But verse 46 right here, And remember, in verse 44, it already indicated that, was it verse 45? I'm sorry. It already indicated that, moreover, of the children of the strangers that do sojourn among you, of them shall ye buy, and of their families that are with you, which they beget in your land, as and they shall be your possession. Verse 46 says, and ye shall take of them as an inheritance for your children after you, to inherit them for a possession. They shall be your bondmen forever. But over your brethren, the children of Israel, so right there, when it says, but over your brethren, the children of Israel, remember, he's making a distinction, and he's using this stranger, and then he says, but over your brethren, the children of Israel. So he's letting you know that that stranger up in verse 40 and 41 was a stranger, like it said in verse 35, I think it was. That's a stranger, but he's letting you know right here, it's an Israelite. He's saying thy brother, but thy brethren, but over your brethren, the children of Israel, that are strangers also, that you can purchase for money, ye shall not rule one over another with rigor. All right. So verse 47. Let me make sure I got everything on that so I can be clear and not leave anything unturned there. And ye shall take them as an inheritance for your children after you, to inherit them for a possession. They shall be your bondmen forever. So this is where the actual slave masters here of the land that we're in today got this concept from, because that's what the children of Israel were supposed to do with their strangers. They were supposed to have bondmen and bond servants forever. And when the mother or father passed away, you take their children and their children, you pass them down to your children. Same thing they did with us. Okay? So that's why when the Lord returned and he restores and he put things back on the other foot, they shouldn't have a problem with it, because they did it just as well. Okay? So verse 47 says, and if a sojourner or a stranger be rich, verse 47, and if a sojourner or stranger wax rich by thee, and thy brother that dwelleth by him wax poor, and sell himself unto the stranger, or sojourn by thee, or to the stock of the stranger's family, after that he is sold, he may be redeemed again. One of his brethren may redeem him. So this is just basically saying, just as it read, an Israelite man can sell himself to a stranger for it to be a servant, you know. So, but if he does that, you can come along and redeem him out of that servitude and buy him. Okay. Hence, this is going into what the scripture is talking about in Deuteronomy 28:68, when it says that, and no man shall buy thee. When the Lord said that ye shall be taken into Egypt again on ships, where you shall be sold for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy thee. Well, right here, how your brother, if your brother goes to one of another nation and he's rich and he buy him, another brother can come along and buy him out of that servitude. That's what the scripture is talking about in Deuteronomy 28:68, in regards to no man shall buy thee. Okay, but I'll keep reading right here. It says, verse 48 again, after that he is sold, he may be redeemed again. One of his brethren may redeem him, either his uncle or his uncle's son may redeem him, or any that is nigh of kin unto him of his family may redeem him, or if he be able, he may redeem himself. And he shall reckon with him that bought him from the year that, I think I want to jump down. I don't really want to get into all that. Let me see. Well, I'll read it anyways, because I'm going to stop at verse 55. And he shall reckon with him that bought him from the year that he was sold to him unto the year of Jubilee. And the price of his sale shall be according unto the number of years. according to the time of an hired servant shall it be with him. If there be yet many years behind, according unto them he shall give again the price of his redemption, out of the money that he was bought for. And if there remain but few years unto the year of Jubilee, then he shall count with him, and according unto his years shall he give him again the price of the redemption. And as a yearly hired servant shall he be with him, and the other shall not rule with vigor one over him in thy sight. And if he be not redeemed in these years, then he shall go out in the year of Jubilee, both he and his children with him. For unto me the children of Israel are servants. They are my servants, whom I brought forth out of the land of Egypt, and I am the Lord your God. Okay, so there you go. I really, I can possibly stop right here, because I've kind of given the clarification of strangers, of the stranger that is an Israelite versus the stranger that is of another nation, and how you as an Israelite are supposed to deal with the stranger that is your brother. But I want to go further, because I got a lot more verses and scriptures just to make it a little bit more clear, so that when you see certain verses throughout the Bible that make reference to strangers obtaining certain favors of the Lord, all you have to do is reflect back to Leviticus 25:35 on down to verse 55, and somewhere in between there, looking at the context of the scriptures, you will be able to make the discernment in reference to whatever that is, that verse, or whatever it is that you're looking at. If there's a benefit for the stranger in reference to a relationship with the Lord or the Most High, that's an Israelite. If it's a detriment to the stranger in that verse, or in whatever that scripture that is that you're reading, if there's a detriment to that stranger, and it doesn't indicate that God is punishing the children of Israel, then that's a heathen stranger. Okay, and it's pretty much that simple. All right, for you to be able to make that distinction, when you see certain verses that make reference to strangers, when you have that notion in your mind that, and you're not sure if that's making reference to an Israelite or not. Okay, so now that we've gotten that out of the way, and we pretty much understand that an Israelite, just as well as a heathen of another nation, that's a stranger. An Israelite is a stranger also. Okay, so now in regards to, I said something earlier about the Lord didn't necessarily care for other nations to be in the land of Israel with the children of Israel, and if they were under servitude, and or they were in captivity. Okay, so let's make clear of that, or make it plain a little bit. So let's go over to Exodus, and we're gonna go to chapter 23. All right, so just bear with me for a minute. All right. Exodus chapter 23, and we're going to start in verse 23. I'm going to read 23 and 24. Now, hold on one second. Now this is in regards to what the Lord told the children of Israel while they were yet with Moses, before they even got to this point, in regards to dealing with other nations, the nations that he told that he sent them to get them out of the land. Now, you got to think to yourself that these other nations that the Lord is sending the children of Israel to go and destroy, they're strangers. Wouldn't they be strangers unto the Most High? I mean, to the children of Israel. So if they're strangers, how is it that the Lord is allowing them, if it's okay for strangers to be amongst the children of Israel and be with them and be associated and affiliated with them in that sense as being strangers and being accepted of the Most High? How is it that the Lord is sending them to eliminate 7 nations at the same time while he's making mention of strangers dwelling with the children of Israel? Okay, so let's look at verse 23, and we're going to read verse 23 and 24. It says, "For mine angel shall go before thee and bring thee in unto the Amorites and the Hittites and the Perizzites and the Canaanites, the Hivites and the Jebusites, and I will cut them off." The Lord is saying he's going to cut them off. Now remember, these should be strangers to the children of Israel, but the Lord doesn't. He's not seeing it that way. So it's just an indication to let you know that when you see the word strangers in the scriptures, where the strangers are joined to the children of Israel, those are Israelite strangers, okay? So verse 24, it says, "Thou shalt not bow down to their gods, nor serve them, nor do after their works, but thou shalt utterly overthrow them and quite break down their images." All right, so that's what the instruction was for the children of Israel, to go in unto these other nations and do this to them. There was no compromising, there was no gathering together and things of that nature. So on the same book, same chapter, we're just going to jump down to verse 29. It's going to be a little bit more reading here, because I'm going to read verse 29 to 23. Verse 29 to 33. So this is just going to further show you that the Lord didn't anticipate on anybody else being in the land amongst the children of Israel, unless they were captive. Okay, so verse 29. So this is chapter 23, verse 29. "I will not drive them out from before thee in 1 year, lest the land become desolate, and the beasts of the field multiply against thee." So the Lord's just saying he won't drive these nations out, at one time, because somebody has to stay in the land to be able to take care of it, keep it subdued, keep it cultivated, plant the crops, and just keep it flowing, as the Lord wanted to, so that when the children of Israel get in it, everything is pretty much already set up for them. All right. In fact, let me jump up to 27. Let me jump up to 27. Let me 27. Yeah, let me jump up to 27. He says in verse 27. It says, "I will send my fear before thee, and will destroy all the people to whom thou shalt come. And I will make all thine enemies turn their backs unto thee, and I will send hornets before thee, which shall drive out the Hivites, the Canaanites, and the Hittites from before thee. I will not drive them out from before thee in 1 year, lest the land become desolate, and the beasts of the field multiply against thee. But little by little I will drive them out from before thee, until thou be increased and inherit the land." So he's giving the children of Israel time to get in the land and begin to grow, as the more of them come in, and then they begin to populate just as well. And that's over a course of time. All right, so verse 31, I'm sorry. Verse 31 says, "And I will set thy bounds from the Red Sea even unto the sea of the Philistines, and from the desert unto the river, For I will deliver the inhabitants of the land into your hands, and thou shalt drive them out before thee. Thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor with their gods. They shall not dwell in thy land, lest they make thee sin against me. For if thou serve their gods, it will surely be a snare unto thee. You see, so the Lord said not to even make a covenant with them. So this is in the land that the children of Israel are going to dwell in when they overtake this land and the Lord overthrow, the other nations and root them out of the land. So if one would say that the children of Israel are taking in these other strangers, these strangers of other nations, how is that possible, or how is that so, when the Lord is saying right here in verse 32, thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor with their gods. You're not to have anything to do with them, okay, in that regard. So you, whoever you are, when you hear certain scriptures in reference to the strangers, you have to learn how to, it's kind of like you have to learn how, you don't allow yourself to be deceived, and or don't deceive yourself. It's kind of like, the reason I said that earlier, the reason some of these lessons, even though they may appear to be milk to some, because some have the understanding of what these scriptures are talking about, but this is like, it's kind of like climbing a ladder. And you understand certain verses, understand certain scriptures, and then when you climb a ladder, being that you are not familiar with, you're not, you're not familiar with certain scriptures, even though it's milk, you will tend to get to a particular point on that ladder, and then when you get up there, it's kind of like you allow certain words like stranger to cause you to lose your place, and then you fall right down the ladder, bite down to the bottom. It's kind of like it's a stumbling block. So you have to learn how to get past those simple things. Well, again, like I say, you may have to start with the milk again, and just go on from there and try to build upon the knowledge and understanding that you already have. But you can't allow these certain things like this to cause you to stumble. If it doesn't apply to you, then hey, no big deal. It's not. I'm not speaking to you. All right. But whoever can you use the knowledge here and get the understanding of it, then that's who it's for. All right. So, but with that being said, let me I may have to break this up into a couple of parts, 2 or 3 parts, rather 2 or 3 lessons. I don't plan on being here all night, so I may cut it off at some point. So let's look at now and go to the book of Numbers, chapter 33. And this is in regards to what I was just reading just a minute ago about the other nations being in the land of Israel. I was saying that the Lord didn't intend on any other nations to be in the land of Israel, as in inhabiting the land of Israel with the Israelites. That's not what the Lord intended. And that's why he just told us not to make any covenants, with them or with their gods. And to that note, let's look at the book of Numbers, chapter 35, and we're going to go to verse 51, and we're going to read from 51 to 55, all right? So that's Numbers, chapter 33, and we're going to start at verse 51 and read to verse 55. Okay, verse 51 reads, it says, speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, when ye are passed over Jordan into the land of Canaan, then ye shall drive out all the inhabitants of the land from before you, and destroy all their pictures, and destroy all their molten images, and quite pluck down all their high places. And ye shall possess the inhabitants of the land, and dwell therein, for I have given you the land to possess it. And ye shall divide the land by lot for an inheritance among your families. And to the more ye shall give the more inheritance, and to the fewer ye shall give the less inheritance. Every man's inheritance shall be in the place where his lot falleth, according to the tribes of your fathers ye shall inherit. Ye shall inherit. But if ye will not drive out the inhabitants of the land, from before you, when it shall come to pass that those which ye let remain of them shall be pricks in your eyes and thorns in your side, and shall vex you in the land wherein ye dwell. Moreover, it shall come to pass that I shall do unto you as I thought to do unto them. And now we already know what that means, because the Lord already did it. See how the children of Israel, now you see what the point was that I was getting to, is that the Most High didn't intend for anybody else to be or inhabit the land of Israel with the Israelites. Nobody else was supposed to be there with them. You see how when the Lord said in verse 56, moreover, if it shall come to pass that I shall do unto you as I thought to do unto them, how the Lord thought to kick them out of the land because of their unrighteousness. And he said, I shall do unto you. He did it because we were disobedient. And that's where Deuteronomy 28, verse 16 on down to verse 68 comes into play. That's where the curses befell us. And the Lord put us out of the land. Okay, so, but the point of that was to show that the Lord didn't want the children of Israel to share the land with any other nation. So let's look at, in addition to this, Numbers chapter 31. Chapter 31, and we're going to read verse 1 to 3. All right, just to add and to show that the Lord didn't intend for the children of Israel to be cohesive with strangers of the other nations, especially in their land. And then so this is Numbers chapter 31, verse 1, and I'm going to read to verse 3. It says, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, avenge the children of Israel of the Midianites. Afterward shall thou be gathered unto thy people. This is Moses. He's gonna pass away. The Lord's gonna take him. And Moses spake unto the people, saying, arm some of yourselves unto the war. Let them go against the Midianites and avenge the Lord of Midian. Okay, and then he goes into telling them how many to take up in the tribes to go out to war. Okay, so now let's jump down to verse 7, and we're gonna go from 7. It's gonna be quite a bit of reading, but we're gonna go from verse 7 to 18, and we're gonna get a little bit of understanding on what happened after the children of Israel went to war with the Midianites. Just showing again that, these are supposed to be strangers, because some people teach that the Lord is okay with strangers joining to the children of Israel. It's not so. If that was the case, he wouldn't have the children of Israel doing what he's doing right now. Okay? So verse 7, it says, now remember, Moses had just told them to arm themselves to go to war. And then verse 4, he divided up. He began to tell them to separate into the tribes, take the men from the certain amounts of the children of Israel from each tribe to go to war. So we're going to jump down to verse 7, and we're going to read on. Okay, it says, verse 7, and they warred against the Midianites, as the Lord commanded Moses, and they slew all the males. And verse 8, and they slew the king of Midian, beside the rest of them that were slain, namely Evi, however you pronounce that, and Rekem, and Zer, and Hur, and Reba, 5 kings of Midian. Balaam, also the son of Beor, they slew with the sword. Verse 9, and the children of Israel took all the women of Midian captives. Remember, I said that earlier. If they're going to be within the children of Israel, they're going to be captives. That's how any other strangers would dwell amongst the children of Israel. At least that was the way it was supposed to be until the children of Israel didn't root all of them out of their land. Then it turned into something else. But other than that, they were supposed to be captives. And then it says, I'll keep reading in verse 9, halfway through. It says, and their little ones, and took the spoil of all their cattle, and all their flocks, and all their goods. Verse 10, and they burnt all their cities within wherein they dwelt, and all their goodly castles with fire. And they took all the spoil, and all the prey, both of men and of beasts. Verse 12. And they brought the captives and the prey and the spoil unto Moses and Eleazar, the priest, and unto the congregation of the children of Israel, unto the camp at the plains of Moab, which are by Jordan near Jericho. And Moses and Eleazar, the priest, and all the princes of the congregation went forth to meet them without the camp. So they left the camp behind. Moses and the priests, they went out to meet the men of war that brought in the spoil from the war. They went out to meet them, and they left the camp behind. In verse 14, it says, and Moses was wroth with the officers of the host, with the captains over thousands and captains over hundreds, which came from the battle. Verse 15, and Moses said unto them, have ye saved all the women alive? So this is Moses, y'all. A lot of people can't, think, hey, the men of the Lord were righteous men, but we think that we've been taught that the men of the Lord were soft, and they weren't soft men. They tolerated the children of Israel when the children of Israel did foolish stuff to provoke the Lord to anger. They would tolerate them and pray for them that the Lord would have mercy upon them. But when it came down to other nations, the children of Israel, the men of the Lord, the rulers of Israel, they didn't have that sympathetic gene, so to speak, unless it was a king or of a nation that they knew and they had a relationship with, and that king dealt fairly with them. They might have some compassion towards him or understanding. Okay, so verse 15 again. And Moses said unto them, have ye saved all the women alive? Verse 16. Behold, these caused the children of Israel through the counsel of Balaam to commit trespass against the Lord in the matter of Peor. And there was a plague among the congregation of the Lord. Verse 17. Now therefore, unalive every male among the little ones, and unalive, I'll say slay, and slay every woman that have not known man by lying with him. So Moses said, slay every male among the little ones, and every woman that have not known man by lying with him, by having intercourse. So verse 18, it says, but all the women, children that have not known man, that have not known a man by lying with him, keep alive for yourselves. And do ye abide without the camp 7 days, whosoever have unalived any person, and whosoever have touched any slain, purify both yourselves and your captives on the 3rd day and on the 7th day, and purify all your raiment and all that is made of skin and all work of goat's hair and all things made of wood. I'm trying to get to one part, which it ain't much more, but I just want to get to the part where Moses said, do with them whatever you will. Give me 1 second. I don't want to drag it out too long. So let me find that verse real quick, just to make it quick. Okay. Bear with me for a minute. There's a part in here where Moses told those men, told them that with the women that they had kept, do whatever they will with them. You know, take them for yourselves and do whatever you will with them. I guess it ain't important. But nevertheless, the point is that they were captives. And that's the only way that they were dwelling amongst the children of Israel. Okay? And so whatever they decided to do with them, you know, they had the clearance from Moses, thus the Most High, to do so. And I'll say this, in regards to those women, you got to think, because some would say, well, I thought the Lord said that they're not supposed to marry women of another nation and things of that nature, such and such, such and such. Like I said earlier. Now, even at this point, well, they had the law, but you have to remember, though these women that had not known man, the men were all taken care of. They were gone. They put them away. Even the young men, they put them away. So the women, they have no support system. The Lord didn't want the children of Israel dealing with nations, like mingling with nations that had a full-fledged support system, and they had their own gods that they served. If we allow our sons and daughters to marry their sons and daughters, and they are established as a nation, they can turn our sons and daughters to serving their gods, which would be sin to the Most High. And that's what would cause the Most High to destroy us. But in this case, there was a certain thing that they had to do, shave their head, pare their nails, and things of that nature. If they decided to take these women to be wives, they had to enter into them and then take them to be wives. But there's no influence at this point. So now they're subject to the men of Israel, and they have to do what you say do and follow you as far as that goes. So now they have to learn our ways in that regard. And as time go on, when that woman pass away, that's the end of her lineage. Every child that she has is an Israelite. So her use, what she was used for, if that be the case, is done and over with. Okay? So that's pretty much it on that. And I think, because it's getting a little late, let me see here. I think I'm going to probably call it quits right here and just pick up maybe tomorrow. Because like I said, I got quite a bit left. And I think I've already made it clear enough, if you have any understanding, just with Leviticus 25, 35, 25 on down, from 35 on down to 55. That pretty much shows the distinction between the two strangers. But I got a whole lot more that's just going to make it so much more clear, so that, you know, when you see the word stranger in particular places in the scriptures, you'll be able to understand that it's not, you know, making reference to a heathen when it comes down to that stranger partaking of the inheritance of Israel. All right. So then that's the goal or the point of this lesson that I want to make. All right. And or get out, basically. So I'm going to stop right here, and then I'll pick up on the next lesson. Let's see where I'm at. Yeah, I'll pick up on the next lesson, and maybe tomorrow sometime, and then we'll go from there. And if I have enough time to get it all on the second part, then I'll do that. But if not, I'll make a third part, and that'll be pretty much it. All right. So thanks for listening, and be blessed. All right. Thank you. Bye.